this thought crossed my mind. I understand this is crafting, and yet it would be nice to see, as I'm delivering my speech, how my audiences are interpreting each of these three pillars of body and conclusion. So if I have some visual feedback from the audience, or how I perceive the feedback, so that I can tune my speech better for next time.
It's interesting. You could actually use that in, for example, when I do evaluations, I have a sheet that I do for evaluations. And part of the sheet is separated so that it's opening, body, conclusion, and I kind of write notes in it. So if you really wanted to know that feedback, you could actually give somebody in the audience that diamond right there and say, all right, let me know if you understand each of these points. So you could use it as kind of a blank sheet. It's meant to be a blank sheet to be used as many ways as possible. Had not thought of it in terms of using it as an evaluation tool, but it is definitely a possibility that it can be used as an evaluation tool. Okay? So the last thing I want to go ahead.
Can I give you some more feedback?
Yes, absolutely.
So I just realized what has irked me about this speech crafting. I have your attention now. When you give me this diagram, and I don't know if it's because of my engineering background, but I focus on every single line on the diagram. So, and I'm looking for a legend. I'm looking for, what does this line mean? So for example, why is the diamond on the outside in dots, but the diamonds on the inside, they're in straight lines, but the parts inside them, they're in dots, they're dotted, and they're different colors. And so the way my brain starts to work is, okay, he's trying to tell me something here, but he's not spelled it out for me. When I look at the right side, okay, the blue and the red. So blue is obviously something happy. Red is angry. But sharp opening is in red. And then I go down, sharp closing is also in red. And brilliant character is in burgundy. Take this to a graphic artist. Or an engineer. Don't get me wrong, otherwise this is fantastic. Okay.
I like my colors, what can I say? Actually, that's a good point. I created this. I didn't, this is interesting because this is exactly the opposite of what I told everyone to do. I didn't create this for you. I created this in my own head for me. So for me, all of those colors did actually have meaning. The dotted line meant like this is the outline of it. This is not really, this is how you're going to make the diamond. And the hard lines mean these are the key elements. The diamonds on the inside were my definition of pillars without actually writing pillars in there. So you make a really good point. When I did this for me. So all of those elements that you see are visual elements for me, and I did not think about the audience. So that's a really good point. I have to take that in consideration and figure out some ways to explain that better, maybe a key, like you said.
One more thing. I think the diamond, the tension needs to be moved up a bit. One of the things I find with speeches that people take too long to get people excited about different, start the tension. People love tension. They love to get everybody fighting, do something. Just move that second, that you have 1, 2, 3, that second point, move it up a bit. I think it needs to,
Or just paint it on the diamond river.
Oh yeah.
That's a good idea.
Oh yeah.
Or vibrate.
One of the things that this is just the drafting. The second part, which is polish your diamond, actually goes into all the elements that you're talking about. And I did put a little bit of that so that you could see on here. The polish your diamond part is this, in terms of a diamond, what really makes a diamond brilliant? Is a diamond brilliant in the dark? It's the light that goes into the diamond that makes it brilliant. So in the polishing your speech one, what that says is, for example, I talked about how body language is the light that creates clarity. It talks about how expressions are the light that create sincerity. That's the second part, and that's some of the stuff that you're talking about there. This is really just trying to focus on the drafting element of it. And obviously this is a tiny part of what it is to deliver a speech. But those are some of the elements that would be covered in the next one, which is polishing your diamond. But like I said, you make a good point about too much information maybe in different places. Definitely have to separate the points 1, 2, and 3 from the story, tension, climax. That created a lot of confusion in how it was, or better explain it when I do it on the board. So, any more questions, quick questions on that?
comment about, you mentioned this is basic and for beginners. In coaching beginners in a Toastmasters team, number one roadblock is, what do I speak about? People really get stuck at the choice of topic. It may be inappropriate, it may be too small, it may be too large, and they churn around that long before they get down to crafting the structure. So if this really is intended as a basic course, I recommend that you spend a little bit of time on how to get from some embryonic idea to something that's suitable for giving a speech. It is really the place where people just hit the wall and never give the speech.
Well, the purpose of this, and like I said, this was presented to an advanced club. The original one here says pocket speech, and the whole point is pocket speech. And I have people practice on writing something that they already know about, and I have a whole section where I actually describe what a pocket speech is. I didn't want to waste that on you. So what I would normally do is in the introduction for pocket speech, after you went and reached into your pocket, I would have a section where I say, what is a pocket speech? A pocket speech is a speech about something you know. I would ask someone, what did you have for breakfast this morning? And I would say, could you write a speech about that? I would ask the other person, do you know how to make a nuclear bomb? I want you to write a speech about that. And obviously she'd be like, oh, I don't know how to write a speech about, unless you're a nuclear engineer, and I just don't know it. And then I would go into, for me, I have three pocket speeches. Model UN, Toastmasters, and public speaking. At any point, I could give you 7 to 20 minutes on any one of those topics, because those topics are in my pocket, they're in my head. That's what I would have done, that would have dealt with that. And that's why I use pocket speech specifically to have you do. So you don't have, because I did this workshop once, and I gave it to people like, well, what do I talk about? It's like, just pick anything, because I wasn't thinking about that. 1,000 concepts come through my mind. I can make a speech on anything, so I didn't think about that. So that's why we use pocket speech as the example, because everybody should have a pocket speech. So that's how that would normally be handled. So do you think that would
that would be helpful. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So any more points there? All right. Then the last thing I want to point out is there anybody who is stuck at any particular point? And I want everyone to give them advice. So for example, if someone was stuck with transitions or stuck with how to tie the opening to the closing. Does anyone have, okay? So give us a real example. What you're going to do is you're going to give examples from the whole audience of how we can help you pass that. And this is also modeling how you can do it yourself. If you get stuck on something, this is a model of how you can actually do it. Go ahead.
Right. So I got confused about, say if I'm trying to start off with, say a beginning, right? So I got confused about whether it's a setup or preview and how to make it sharp enough. So I'll give you an example. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the use of plastic and plastic bags. And I thought, okay, how do I make it so that people can actually relate to it and feel something about it, rather than just saying, don't use plastic, right? So I thought of starting off saying, you know, we go on a beach with like my niece and nephew, and then we go to, and I thought of making it something specific, like Half Moon Bay that people can relate to. And I said, I thought, okay, you know, I'll make one of the kids point to some location and say, oh, you know, it's a bag, a thank you bag, but it's now converted to just like a you bag, you know, that you are the reason I'm here, something. But I couldn't, you know, this is a setup, obviously, but then I need to say this, but how do I put a sharp opening to it? So that was sort of like a,
Okay. So can we give some examples of how you can give a speech dealing with plastic bags, and what are some options for sharp openings? Start with Rita.
We saw a seal that was dead on the beach. A plastic bag was wrapped around its neck.
Fish.
I saw a very powerful picture of a turtle. You know those cans, the 6-pack cans? They have those plastic.
right.
The turtle had that thing when it was small, and it grew with the 8 shape. The middle was just small, and everything else was big. If you can show that picture, it'll be very powerful.
Wow. Other ones.
Seems like there must be some startling statistics about how much plastic is sitting at the bottom of the ocean, or you know, it could fill up a stadium, or I don't know.
Like that giant G-Road, whatever, there's somewhere out.
Or Pacific Gyre.
Yes.
Yeah, like something like refer to that.
Or even get a picture of that.
She mentioned niece and nephew, and kids are always good for the kind of teardrop effect. They're taking him out for a wonderful day on the beach, and it's littered with his garbage. So ruins their whole day, that kind of thing, their future.
So we've had internet research with Gyra, we've had storytelling, we've had picture, all great examples of sharp openings. Okay? Anyone else that had one they were kind of stuck on? Okay? Now the point is, go to your resources. Your resources are your human resources, the internet, photographs. You have so many resources to go to. So when you get stuck with something, find someone to go to. I have, because I'm very particular, I have certain people I trust deeply when it comes to my speaking stuff. Very few. I go to them. Because when they tell me something, it's like my mother telling me something. And I automatically listen. That's why I said it's so few, because very few people have that impact on me. But those people, when you say it, yep, okay, boom. You know, find those people, or find other people in your club, or on the various resources, you know, on the internet. Those will help you with yours. Again, most people like to think that creativity is a flash from God. Yes, I know the answer now. 70% of creativity is borrowing from somebody else and making it your own. All right, knowledge is knowledge. It's always out there in the world. We just don't always have it right here. Sometimes we got to go out there to get it. Okay, go out there and get it when you don't know the particular answers to it. All right. So with that said, we're coming to the end. So 2 things. One, I said everyone has to have 3 points of resonance. So, can I please see your 3 points of resonance in your notes? Okay. Who had something that they completely disagreed with me who hasn't said it yet? Punch me. Come on, put on the boxing glove. Come on, people. All right, who has something?
Memorize. I saw something on memorize. Memorize your...
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry. I did not... Okay.
Yeah.
That is not my apology. I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah, don't...
Let me explain it, because I didn't explain the 2 things, and that's where the confusion came. So thank you so much for that. I do not believe in memorizing. The reason I do not believe in memorizing is 1, it's hard for me to do. 2, because when I tried to memorize and I got stuck at a particular point, at that point everything else breaks down. Everything just breaks down. So I do not believe in memorizing. But this is what I do believe in. When you're giving a presentation, your opening and your closing, if not memorized, should be the closest things to being memorized. Why? Because those are the sharpest points. So, either memorize them or practice them to the point where you own them. You ruminate them, you ruminate so much on them that you don't need to memorize them, you don't need to remember to breathe. It happens. You want to get that opening and closing so tight, because it's that opening and closing that are the sharpest points. Now, Patricia Fripp will actually say, and this is one of the people that I like her, not to enthuse her as a speaker, but I love her as a teacher of how to speak. Okay, I'm a very honest person. I love how she teaches the things in terms of, you know, what helps us to speak. She makes a point about memorizing. Now, my immediate thing when I saw that, I was like, oh, I don't memorize nothing. No, I'm not memorizing, because it takes me from that spark mode and all that. But then I realized I do it. I plan my openings and closings so well that I do almost memorize them. You know, I did one where I did a speech called Home, and I sung the opening of Sitting on Dock of the Bay, or parts of Sitting on Dock of the Bay. Well, of course I memorized it, because it was a song. I'm not going to get up there and sitting on the chair in the sun. You know, I'm going to say what's supposed to be said. When I did the Pledge of Allegiance, I'll give you a hint. You know why I did that? Because I already knew the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't have to memorize it. I was looking for a great opening, and I started literally going in my head, going, oh yeah, Pledge of Allegiance, I know that. And I said it, and I realized, wow, this is not true for people in Washington, D.C. That's how that speech came about, okay? So maybe not memorize, but make sure you either memorize or practice in that opening and closing enough that you deliver that so perfectly, you wow the hell out of them.
Can I suggest instead of memorize, internalize?
Internalize.
That's the word.
That's a good word, yes.
Exactly.
So internalize the opening and the closing. And I will change that on the slide to internalize from memorize.
That's right.
But yesterday we were at a presentation for National Speakers Association called Achieve. And they did this little voting thing. It was the best keynote and the best workshop. The woman who won Best Workshop delivered a perfect 60 seconds. It was so well done. From beginning to end, all the information was there, everything was perfect. And afterwards I talked to her. She said, oh yeah, I'm not really comfortable, you know, giving speeches, but I practiced it enough so that I knew it really well. And her delivery of that 60 seconds, and she's a student of ProTrack, was way better than some of those people who were making big dummies. Okay? So internalize it so you know it so well. Now I'm sure if I go to this woman's entire workshop, she didn't memorize / internalize / practice everything in it. But those 60 seconds, she did so well, we were awed. And she won easily, hands down, for best keynote. Okay? So internalize it, opening and closing. Okay? So with that said, any other points of resonance? Something that really stuck out, that really hit home for you on the positive side?
I think your reminder of the sharpness and the piercing. As, it seems like in our little group we all have different areas where we are good at. Some people come up with beginning and end. Maybe the engineer thing again, but content I could come up with, but I can't figure out how to make it impactful or emotional. So it's a good reminder that you need to pierce them to get their attention.
Excellent. And it's also good, as you said, going to people who do what you don't do well. I think you are a phenomenal Toastmaster. The first time I did Beta Bay, that was the best, like, just impromptu Toastmastering, so poised, and I was like, wow, I want to be like that. You know, you go to people who have skills that you don't have if you want to be good at that particular skill. You know, so that's an excellent example. All right. Anything else? So one more hand? No? Okay. Any last questions before I hand over back to the Toastmaster? Yes.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on borrowing something from someone else and making it your own? And the reason I ask that is because at the beginning of the presentation, you invited us to borrow from other people. And that concerned me. At the closing, you redeemed yourself to a large extent by saying that, that you have to make it your own. But you didn't really focus on that, and I was wondering if you had a few words of wisdom on how to make something your own so that you're not delivering something that was borrowed, stolen, or canned.
Absolutely. What I'm talking about when I say borrow something, I mean a specific element. I'll give you a good example for me. The person who did the stepping, okay? I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma, and I step. I never thought about opening a speech with stepping. I opened a speech where I actually did a full step. And that was a speech on grand openings. I borrowed that from him. Did I take his exact steps, his exact call? No. If I did that, then that would be essentially plagiarizing from him. I took the idea. So maybe borrowing the idea is a better word. Second of all, definitely, I don't ever mean plagiarize, don't ever use anyone's words, and Toastmasters always says this, without crediting them. That's what a quote is. A quote is using someone else's words and crediting them. You notice I said Patricia Fripp 3 times today. As I told you, she's not my favorite speaker. Actually, in this room, at least 3 people I think are better speakers than Patricia Fripp. But when I use her words, I credit Patricia Fripp. When I use a specific idea that is hers, I heard it from her, I know she uses it and talks about it, I credited her with it. Okay? That's the difference between the two. When you're borrowing an idea, you're borrowing an idea of how to do something. I sung as part of a speech. 2 weeks later, I went to a Toastmasters meeting where someone sung as the opening of their speech. Then I go, oh my God, no she didn't. She just took my singing. It's a song. It worked. She was a much better singer than me, so it worked really well, but the idea came from when she saw me open. So that's what I mean.
Was it the same song?
No, it was not the same song. But it would be okay if it was the same song if it was a different speech. If she did the same song and started talking about her home and the 3 different places she called home, I would have been like, oh, no, nuh-uh. Something's going on here. Okay? Plagiarism? No. So it wasn't that close. So there is definitely a balance there. What I should do maybe is change the words, borrow an idea from someone. When I'm talking about creativity, a lot of times people think an idea came to them and it's something that I read someplace else. As a speaker, I'm really, really aware of that. Yesterday, one of the speakers talked about the opening, and they said it was Big Bang opening, something, and then a roadmap. And I was like, ooh, I like that, but I can't use that because that's not my words. So what I did is, the only thing I did is on your sheet, you'll notice that there's a little sharper diamond at the top for open sharp, because I wanted to point out that that was a kind of a very separate element. Now, if I took his words, which is Big Bang, and then, I forgot what the second thing he said, and then roadmap, then I would be plagiarizing. I heard something he said, I repeated what he said. But what I did is I heard what he said, and I said, I liked how he really separated it. I need to find a way to separate my ideas more. So there is definitely a balance in between there. I do apologize if I indicated when I said borrow, that I, in any way, shape, or form, alluded to plagiarize. I do not mean that. I mean borrowing the concept, taking that concept, owning that concept, making it your own, and changing it to put it within your presentation. Thank you.